So if you see, these are the typical piping activities. Let us look how what are the various activities piping team is doing. Like these are the just heading of this team activities. We'll go in detail in for each and every item. Let us look at what are various activities piping team is doing. So proposal work, front end engineering design, detailed engineering design, field engineering services. So if you see, before getting any project, some proposal work we are doing, like what are various activities are involved and what will be the cost of the project, or everything is evaluated, then that proposal goes to client, and if they approve it, then only we get the project work. So most of the things we are doing in detailed engineering design. Okay, after engineering, all the deliverables goes to site and field engineering is done. Okay, field engineering is mostly done at site. So let us look at importance of piping discipline. Piping items cost-wise constitute about 10 to 15% of total project cost. So if you see, this is only 10 to 15%. Suppose the cost of total project is 100 rupees, then piping cost will be around 10 to 15 rupees only. Piping share is around 30 to 50% of total engineering procurement man hours. But at the same time, when the cost is 10 to 15% only, the time taken by the piping team to complete the project activities will be around 30 to 35%. Piping strength in EPC is around 35% of total manpower. If you see in any project, the piping team will be the biggest one. It will be around 30% of the total manpower which is required to complete the project. So this is just an overview. What are the various piping activities and how and why this is an important discipline. So look at this. If in Let's start with the center. Piping engineering is development of equipment arrangement and piping layout for complex process industry. Okay, so if you see, these are the major responsibilities of piping engineering discipline. That means when we are doing the process piping engineering, we have to take care of all these points which are mentioned in green color. Like it should be cost effective, it should meet all process requirement. Okay, smooth plant operation, meet project schedule, meet owner's requirement. It should meet all the client requirement. Piping system should be flexible. It should be safe, easy to maintenance, and accessibility should be there. Facilitate the inspection. Design code compliance, it should follow all the design codes requirements. Construction feasibility. So piping layout has to take care of all these things while developing the layout. Now look at all these deliverables. If you see, piping will be divided into four parts: layout, material, stress, and 3D admin team. So if you see in layout, the major deliverables from layout will be piping design basis, plot plan, equipment layout, general arrangement drawings, isometrics, interface line details, nozzle orientation drawings, review of vendor drawings, 3D model activities, managing the 3D model, MTO. Okay, so these are the major deliverables which are expected from piping layout team. They are using these two softwares, like 3D or 2D softwares will be used. Most of the time we are using PDMS, SP3D or PDS. In 2D we are using AutoCAD and MicroStation. So all these deliverables we'll discuss in detail, each and every deliverable. What are these deliverables? How we are? What are the different activities we have to perform to get this deliverable? Okay, this is just an introduction, just the list of items which are majorly delivered by piping layout team. Similarly, for material team, they have to prepare the piping material specification, PMS, MTO processing control. Material team always look into the controlling of MTO, what things we have to procure, whatever things we have already procured, what is the delta. Every time they keep on looking into these things. Requisition, technical bid evaluation, they interact with all the vendors. They request them to supply these things, then they evaluate whether they are supplying the right thing or not. Review of vendor drawings. Whenever vendor submit some documents, they have to review and respond. So these are the major activities which material team has to take care. At the same time, stress team, they have to perform stress analysis, and they have to prepare stress analysis design basis, okay, specification for pipe supports. So these are the major two documents which they have to prepare at the beginning of the project, like design basis and pipe support document. Then they have to identify what are the critical lines, what are the non-critical lines. Then stress analysis is done based on all the information available. Loading data to civil. This is a major task the stress team has to perform. They provide input to civil department. Loading information. Data sheet for spring, support, struts, etc. That has to be prepared by stress team. Pipe support schedule. Okay, so these things are the major deliverable which stress team has to deliver. And they are using Caesar and Nozzle Pro type of softwares. At the same time, we are having our 3D admin team. If piping layout team faces any problem related to interface with 3D software, they have to deal with this 3D admin team. At the beginning of the project, 3D admin team set up the 3D model. They customize the things to uh, help 3D layout team so that they can 3D model in 3D software. Database updation, everything, all the catalogs given by material team, they have to update in database. Admin administration activities, inter-department coordination, material takeoff, isometric and layout. Admin team is involved at each and every step of the project. So these are the various roles and responsibilities, and majorly we are focusing on deliverables which each and every sub department has to perform. Received by piping from other disciplines. Okay, so like we have discussed in previous videos, what are the various discipline. Now we know process discipline is there. What process discipline is giving to piping discipline? First of all, they have to give the process flow diagram PFDs and process and instrumentation diagrams P90s. Okay, this is the basic document which piping department requires before starting any of the activities. Along with this, they require line list, review of all process critical lines in 3D model. Okay, process team gives these three majorly inputs to piping discipline. Then from project team, what we receive, project schedule, what are the various activities we have to perform. They provide us the schedule, when and how we are going to complete this schedule. Interaction with client, they interact with client and provide input to piping discipline. Interdepartment coordination, progress monitoring. So this is the major role of project team, and this while performing their own role, they provide project schedule, the client requirements, other discipline requirements, and at the same time they monitor the progress also. From civil discipline, what we require at the beginning of the project is site data, grade levels, soil inspection. Okay, so these kind of reports are generally done by civil department and they provide it to piping discipline. Stormwater drain, open drain system, civil discipline provide all the draining arrangement requirements. Okay, preliminary sizes of structure, member of pipe rack, technical structure. At the beginning of the project, they decide whether they are going for concrete or steel type of structure. They decide the standards, code and standard for the same, and they share the information with piping layout. Based on this information, piping discipline decide the spacing requirement of all the structural items. Okay, from electrical, piping discipline receive electrical cable tray routing. Based on this, the space is allocated and layout is done. From mechanical discipline, we require mechanical data sheets, vendor drawings of all mechanical equipment. Before starting the project, these two items are required from mechanical discipline. Based on this, only space is allocated for all the equipment. All the equipments are modeled at the starting of the project based on whatever information is available. Procurement is interacting with vendor and they select the vendors, and this information is shared by procurement team with piping discipline. Okay, from HSE, they perform HAZOP studies, interdisciplines between unit, escape routes and safety drawings, fire protection, penalties and line lists. So HSE is performing these activities, and based on their study outputs, they share the information with piping team. And instrumentation, piping instrument interface, instrument hookup, input for inline instrument items, instrument cable tray routing, review of 3D model for all instrument items. So all these disciplines provide their inputs to piping so that piping starts working towards their own deliverables. So in this slide we have tried to cover all the inputs required by piping to start the piping work. Okay, so in this slide we'll discuss what is the information given by piping to all other disciplines. Let's start with process discipline. In process, piping gives PIN-ID markup. Whatever changes they make in model, they keep on marking in the PIN-IDs and they pass it to process team. They review it and approve. Also, process keep on asking for isometrics to finalize the line sizes, to finalize PSV sizes, control valve, etc. And also the utility distribution diagrams are prepared by piping and they pass it to process for their final approval and incorporation. For project team, they piping keep on giving input based on TDR, technical document register. All the deliverables which piping has to deliver, they keep on passing it to project team for their approval. And for civil, majorly they are looking for plot plan, keep on layout, and loading information. Like we have discussed in previous video, like process stress team prepares the loading information and they pass it to civil. Equipment supported platforms. Piping team finalize the location of equipment and their foundation locations. They pass that information to civil department. So based on this piping discipline, finalize the support location, equipment location. So these information they pass it to civil department. Also they finalize the underground piping network and they share with civil department to finalize the other civil requirements. At the same time, electrical department they are also looking for plot plan equipment from piping and to confirmation on electrical cable tray layout. They prepare some layout, cable tray layout, and they share it with piping and they finalize, mutually discuss these things and they finalize these things. Also, the input for heat tracing is given by piping discipline to electrical department. Same is with for HSE department. Broadband and 3D model is required from piping to health and safety department. They finalize their requirement based on those inputs. For procurement department, they are looking for technical requirements of piping items that is provided by piping team, requisition for inquiry, purchase, technical bid evaluation, final vendor drawing reviews. All these information pass from piping to procurement and they finalize, they review and finalize all this information. Say, also the for mechanical team is looking for another orientation of static vessels from piping department, information for platform pipe clips. Sometimes piping department they support pipe on vessel using support clips. That information is passed from piping to mechanical. Again, all the vendor drawings which mechanical discipline receive from vendors, they pass it to piping department for their approval. They provide their comments and they pass it to mechanical department for their final approval. Similarly, for instrumentation, they are also looking for plot plan, vendor drawing review for piping, related instrument items, confirmation on instrument cable tray routing, isometrics within with inline instruments. All this information is passed by piping to instrument and all other departments. So this kind of this way the information passed from each discipline to piping and piping to other disciplines. Codes and standards. Codes, a group of rules and systematic procedures for design, fabrication, installation, examination, and inspection, prepared in such a manner that it can be adopted by legal jurisdiction and made into law. Okay, so these are set of rules which we need to follow. There is no escape route because legal jurisdiction is involved, and this is kind of law. We cannot escape. We have to follow these things. On the other hand, standards are documents prepared by a recognized professional group or committee which contain mandatory requirements. These are also mandatory requirements, but we can always discuss and change if required. But at the end, we need to follow all the codes and standards to get the final design. Now, if you see, we have codes here. If you see, ASME section 31.1 is for power piping, then ASME 31.3 is for process piping, which is mainly used. Then 31.3 is for pipeline transportation system for liquid hydrocarbon and other systems. Okay, section 8 division 1 is used for vessel pressure vessel design. Okay, so these four codes are basically used in designing of process piping. So at the same time we are having standards, type of standards we have listed here on right side. These are all the standards used. If you see, we have abbreviations here. ASTM is stands for American Society of Testing Materials. Similarly, these are few standards which we use for the designing of piping engineering. Okay, ASME, API, BS, MSS, NACE. NACE is National Association of Corrosion Engineers. ISO standards, International Organization for Standards, standardization. So this is the list of codes and standards which we generally use. Okay, so let us try to understand various standards. If you look at this bottom portion here, we have basically material standards, design standards, and dimensional standards. If we understand this thing, then we are able to understand whole concept of various standards. So, what are manufacturing standards? Manufacturing material standards, which are mentioned here. These are standards which inform us about the manufacturing and material grade of the piping system. Okay, ASTME grade A106 for pipe. This is an example for given for material standard. Okay, if we talk about a pipe of material A106, this is the ASTME standard. Okay, so let us look at design standards. SME B16.5 API 600. This is a design standard. These are design standards which inform us about the design of piping item. Okay, so these are just the names of the standards. And let's have a look at the dimensional standard. SMS B16.5. These are the standards which inform us about the dimensions of the piping item. Okay, 16, 36.10 m, 36.19 m for pipe. Okay, so these are all the dimensional standards. Then there are inspection and testing standards also. API 598. These are the standards which inform us about the inspection and testing. Okay, of piping system. So just try to understand the standards are classified into three categories: material standard, design standard, and dimensional standard. Okay, for example, here for valves up to small bore valves, the material standard will be A105, design standard is API 601, and this will be dimensional will be decided by manufacturer. Okay, then more than 2 inch up to 10 inch, the material standard is 216 grade B WCB. And design standard is API 600 and dimensional standard is 16.10. So this is just an example how various standards are used, what are different kind of standards are there. In coming slides we'll just have a look at all these standards for a. Okay, so let's go to next slide to understand what different standards are there. So definition wise, this specification contains general design and material requirements pertaining to all process utility piping systems. That means we have to cover all the general requirements which are required to complete the design as per client requirements. Okay, so while doing this, we'll have to uh, cover all the requirements related to equipment layout, elevations, clearances, access for operation, maintenance, and safety for all process and utility pipe works. Okay, so as we have already discussed, there are so many other disciplines other than piping. So every discipline has its own design basis because they have to have some basis for their design also. So every discipline like process design basis is there, piping design basis is also there, electrical instrumentation, HSE. Every discipline has to have their own design basis. So generally, this is nothing but the basis for further design. So here I have listed out all the items which needs to be there in any of the design basis. In any of the project, we have to have one design basis, and these are the items which has to be there. Okay, so I have categorized into three parts. We'll have separate video on each of these part. In this video, we are just identifying what are the various things. For example, in first part, we'll have introduction to project, what this project is all about. Then abbreviations, definition and parties involved, unit of measurements, what is the design life, what are the codes and standard specifications which we are going to use in the project, order of precedence, then piping material requirement, pros and cons, allowable stresses. So all these things we have to have in any of the design phases. Second part, we have general design philosophy, requirements related to plot plan, equipment layout, what are the requirements for clearances and accessibility, then what are the various philosophies we are going to use for designing pipe rack, pump piping, pressure vessels, all these piping systems, piping flexibility and supports. Although we will have a separate design basis for stress team, but we'll have we'll cover few of the things, few important things, piping design basis also. In third part, we have piping deliverables, like whatever deliverables piping department is going to deliver, those we have to list out and we have to identify what are the various requirements for delivering all those deliverables. Then installation and painting coating specification we have to mention. Entity requirements we categorize in design basis. Other than this, we have some appendices. Suppose we have some standard specification given by client side that we have to use in the project, that we always add into our design basis. So overall, we have to list out all the things which we are going to follow in designing the plant and with the agreement of client. Okay, so these are all the items listed in which are required in a. The process flow diagram are derived from a block flow diagram, but shows far more information such as equipment title with tag numbers, etc. If you see in left figure, we have one equipment. This equipment numbers are there. Okay, flow direction is there. Tag numbers are there. Okay, so this is the basic information. The first input available with piping from process. PFD is useful for initial layout studies and forms a basis for development of safety flow diagram, material section diagram, and PNIDs. Okay, so even process is having only these PFDs before developing the PNIDs. So this is very important document which is used at initial stage of the project. Then we have fluid list. Fluid list is another important document. It is an input document for piping for the preparation of PMS. So to start developing PMS, the first document is fluid list. Data in fluid list is filled in by process discipline except the following. It consists of following items. If you see this table in between is having all the information which a fluid list is containing. Okay, serial number, fluid code, fluid description, stream description, phase, operating temperature, pressure, design temperature and pressure, then composition, okay, CO2, H2S, beta X, H2O, chloride content, toxicity, maximum line size, MOC, rating, corrosion allowance. All these things are mentioned in the fluid list. So this is the first input for PMS development. So in this fluid list, few inputs are given by metallurgy team, that is toxicity and NACE application, material of construction and corrosion allowance. These three inputs are given by metallurgy and it becomes part of line list. Sorry, the fluid list. Fluid list is ready when piping provides the following input. To complete the fluid list, this information is given by the piping team. Once we add this into the piping input into this fluid list, it becomes complete fluid list, which is used for further design activities. Then there is an equipment list. Equipment list is required by piping for development of overall plot plan, 3D modeling, preliminary pipe routing studies. So let us understand what are the various items listed in the equipment list. Equipment tag number, equipment description, quantity. Suppose there are two pumps, so quantity will be 2. Equipment type, PIN ID number, material, process parameters, design conditions, dimensions, weights, and some remarks are there. So at initial stage of the project, this becomes a very important document to start equipment layout. Next is a very important document, that is process and instrument diagram, PINIDs. This is the basis for piping layout design. So PINID is a pictorial representation of plant that shows all the equipment, associated piping, instrumentations and installation. Okay, so it contains all this information. The document is of prime importance and all design disciplines must conform to the PINIDs. It is also a means of communication between plant designer and operator or owner. Primary responsibility of PINID lie with process engineer, but technical inputs are required from other disciplines also. For example, piping, instrumentation, mechanical, electric, all disciplines contribute to this basic document. So if we talk about in details, PINID shows the following general information. All equipments are there, including spares, associated piping, including valves, line fitting, strainer, reducers, flanges, spectacle blind, actuated valves, complete instrumentation, PSVs, respirator disc, process requirements, if any slope or minimum distance are required, that has to be covered in notes, but it has to be part of PINID. Equipment elevations, drain and vents. PINIDs are not are made not to scale, but in realistic proportion and relative locations. Main process lines are shown as bold. Arrows are indicated for flow direction. Continuation arrows are at either end of the drawing. So all this information is mentioned in PINID. So PINID becomes the basic document for all discipline. In the starting of the project, we take MTO based on this information provided here at initial stage of the project. Okay, so PINID is a very important document and it is starting point for all engineering design. So in PINIDs, legend PINIDs are also there. Okay, legend PINIDs consist of following part: journal legends, equipment legends, piping legends, instrumentation legends. If you see, we in PINIDs we use so many symbols. So in the starting of the PINID, we have a few PINIDs mentioning all the legends details. If you see here, PINID numbering system, how we are going to number the PINID document. Okay, suppose in a project we have 80 90 PINIDs, so there should be a numbering system to that. So that numbering system should be indicated in PINID legend PINIDs. Okay. And piping class, what does piping class mean? I mean, if there are four digits, each digit has to have some meaning. So everything is mentioned in legend PINIDs. Okay, so piping symbols are there: reducer, flanges, valves, spectacle blinds. Okay, line numbering, how each and every line is numbered. That numbering system has to be mentioned in legend PINID. So there are few legend PINIDs where all coding is mentioned, how we are going to use in detailing detailed PINIDs. So this becomes a very important document along with PINID. Then another one important document which we receive from process is line list. Line list is a document which provides the following information: line size, line number, material class, including pipe rating, material construction, service and phase, PIN-ID reference, from to information is also there, from where this line is originating and where it is going. Everything is mentioned in the line list. Then operating temperature pressures are also part of line list. Design conditions are mentioned. Installation, tracing and painting requirements are also part of line list. Right. Test pressure, test medium, process critical and piping stress critical. That everything we mark in line list and it becomes part of this document. Post weld heat treatment, radiography, chemical cleaning requirements, we can always mention in line list. So to get all this information, we need to refer line list. This is the base document to get this information. Then if you see this line list, although this is a document from process, but few informations we process discipline receive from piping. For example, test medium, test pressure, stress information. This is given by piping and process fills this information into their line list. Data to be filled by metallurgy, installation and painting requirements, NDT, PWHD requirements. This information is given by metallurgy department and this becomes part of line list. So if you see, the purpose is to uniquely identify each line and provide design parameters for other engineering activities. So to get this uniquely identified things, we have to refer line list only. So document forms and unique input for piping discipline for MTO generation, preparation of 3D model, stress calculation, and isometric generation. So if you see, the isometrics will be generated at the later stage of the project. By that time, all these information will be freezed, and few of the things we mention in isometric also. So this becomes very important document for piping design. So first one is what is overall plot plan and why it is required. If you see, the overall plot plan is a document which represents in a simplified manner all plant units in a factory. Okay, so we are having a one document where all the units are located in a single very simplified manner. Gives the overall view of the plot, showing relative location of various units, utility areas, storage areas, effluent ponds, waste disposal area, non-plant buildings, service units, pipe rack, roads, railway overhead, electrical, future expansion, provision, and plant boundaries. So everything is shown in a single document. It is called overall plot plan. It also gives geographical orientation of the plant and wind direction. Generally, we take scale of 1 by 2500 or 1 by 2 and 2000, 1 by 1000 or 1 by 500 based on the size of the and number of the units. In drawing size, we take A0 or A1. Okay, so this is the definition of overall plot plan. This is nothing but a simplified manner where we show all the plant units in a single detail. Then let us look at what is the content which we need to show in any overall plot plan. Okay, so if you see the relative location of process and utility block, this is the major thing which is covered in overall plot plan. And overall plot size and unit plot sizes. So sizes and number of blocks we show in overall plot plan. The next one is major roads. Road layout is always there in overall plot plan, so we can understand how all blocks or units are connected with each other. Non-plant building locations and its space and access requirements. So other than process plant, we have admin building, canteen, warehouses, everything is shown in overall plot plan along with location and its spacing requirements, and everything is there in overall plot plan. Then to start developing overall plan, we have to fix some data point and coordinate system, plant elevation, then geographical node and plant node both are shown. Wind direction we show, electrical instrument building like substation, common room, laboratory, everything is shown in overall plot plan. In rack profile in OPS SBI pipeline is also shown. Sometimes it is in kilometers. So overall plot plan is the best document where we can see all the pipe rack, determination of battery limits, inter-unit spacing requirement as per local or international authorities, codes and standards requirements. So all these things are taken care, then only overall plot plan is developed. It is showing all these things. Okay, so these are the things which are shown in any of the overall plot plan. So let us see what are the inputs required for development of this document. Client's plot plan showing battery limit, location and means of feed inlet, product outlet, future expansion. We need to understand from where the feed is coming, okay, where the output product will go, and what are the future expansion plans. Then design basis, plant layout specification, contract documents specifying future expansion requirement, atmospheric condition, non-plant facilities like admin building, canteen, workshop, etc. We need to have all these information in advance. Contour survey map showing grade elevation. These surveys are done at very initial stage of the project and we get the grade elevation. Based on that, we fix the unit elevations. Okay, accordingly, we decide further design activities. Licensors preliminary layout showing overall process unit size. Unit block diagram, PFDs if available, package unit specs with overall sizes, installation and construction plan. We need to understand how construction activities will be taking place in future. Based on that only, we need to plan our road layout, road width, road clearance. So all these things, all these inputs we require at this stage of when we start developing of overall plot plan. Then only we can go ahead. Then we need to understand codes requirement, regulation for safety measures. All these things we need to cover while developing the road plot plan. Okay, once we receive all these things, then only we can develop the overall plot plan. So here we will discuss how this overall plot plan is used. I mean, once this is available, how other disciplines are using this document. For piping itself, it is used to develop unit plot plan. We will discuss separately in detail how plot plan is developed, but this is the basic document to develop the unit plot plan. This is required to civil also, grading and drainage arrangement, road arrangement, non-plant building sizes and location. So civil can finalize all these three things based on overall plot plan. Okay, electrical will be using this overall plot plan to decide cable routing above ground or underground, buried or trench. Electrical building locations, tentative sizes and substation. These things electrical can easily locate once they have with them overall plot plan. Then instrument. Location of control room, lab, analyzer house, major cable routing. Okay, instrument will be having the overall plot plan with them. They can easily locate all their control room and other buildings. Same thing is with HSE team. Once they have overall plot plan with them, they can finalize their HSE philosophy and scheme. Okay, escape route layout, safety equipment layout, plant and equipment safety distances. Process department, they can finalize their utility distribution diagrams based on overall plot plan. And for engineering, procurement and construction schedule, they can estimate quantum of work. Okay, so this overall plot plan is a very important document in any of the project because every discipline is getting some information from this. So in this slide, we will discuss all the definitions related to plot plan. What is plot plan? Why it is important? So if you see, a unit plot plan is an arrangement drawing within a common battery limit area. Try to understand this definition. We are talking about a battery limit. Battery limit means a specific area within which whatever arrangement is there, we call it unit plot. Okay. Usually designed for independent operation. This unit will be having its own operation. It has nothing to do with other units except for inlet and outlet. It has its own independent shutdown. If we go for a shutdown of a unit, it has no impact on other units. So that kind of arrangement is called unit plot plan. It highlights the equipment and supporting facilities, sub pipe rack or building, etc. This so everything which is within a common battery limit is called a unit plot plan. This is just a general definition. So equipments are arranged in a logical process flow sequence. Okay, we have to understand the process flow sequence through PFDs or PNIDs, whatever we have with us. We need to understand that sequence, then only we can arrange the equipments. So the purpose of locating these logical arrangement is to reduce piping and pumping cost. This is the main purpose. So this is all the more important when the piping involved is of stainless and alloy steels. So when there is stainless and alloy steel is involved, the cost will be more. So that time we need to be very careful while understanding the logical process sequence. So once logical sequence is understood, then only we can reduce the piping. So we divide this unit definition into two parts: on-site or off-site. Okay, so on-site means a process unit. Off-site covers all other facilities of the plant. Off-site facilities are interconnected by fairly large yard piping, which run on pipe rack or slippers. There are pipe rack and slippers in unit also, but those are very small and within the battery limit only. So the location and routing of the most economical pipe rack and slipper covers major part of the off-site layout. Equipment and structure shall be so arranged to permit access to crane, monorail, davit, platform, ladders to service equipment such as compressor, exchanger, etc. So we need to arrange all these equipment in such a manner so that crane can go inside and perform the maintenance activities whenever it is required. Okay, so all these vessels will go into detail when we cover individual section. For example, when we do the compressor piping system, we'll discuss these things in detail. A good unit layout takes into account the most important features such as economy, appearance, and arrangement of equipment. It should be aesthetically good, proper operation is ensured, maintenance facilities, safety consideration, and ease of construction. These all we need to take care when we develop a unit plot plan. Basically, economy means installing a unit in a smallest possible space. If you see the smallest possible space means we have to use minimum real estate. Real estate is having. So along with the real estate, we have to take care its operability, maintenance, and safety aspects also. So this is all about the general things related to plot plan, definition of plot plan, and types of plot plan. Okay, we will go into detail when we discuss individual equipments. So this is just a general discussion on this. So this slide is about stages of unit plot plan. As we have discussed during our discussion on overall plot plan, we discussed different stages of overall plot plan there. Similar stages are there for unit plot plan also. For example, okay, we divided into two parts like preliminary stage and final stage. During preliminary stage, we don't have final information related to equipment, PNADs. Okay, we sometimes we have PFDs only. So that kind of raw information is available at start of the project. Based on all these things, we start developing our unit plot plan. So first step will be to understand the process sequence based on PFD or PNADs. We start locating our equipment first. Okay, so based on whatever information is available, we issue a revision of unit plot plan, which we call it issue for review. This goes to all other disciplines as well as other stakeholders like client and PMC. They provide their own comments. We incorporate all these comments and we issue it again for approval. By the time we start getting final vendor drawings, PNIDs, so whatever information we were using here, it becomes much more mature. So we update our unit based on that information and issue it for design. So again, it goes to all stakeholders like client and BMC, and they provide their comments. And they, if they don't have any comment, they provide their approval. So based on this issue for design, we update our 3D model, and all these activities keep on going. Later on, when the information gets more mature and we are able to incorporate all these comments, then we issue it for construction. Sometime at this stage, we issue it for construction with some holds, which we take approval from client. Okay, we have these holds, but we want to issue this for construction. So they provide their approval and we issue it for construction. And once all the holds are removed, we issue it for construction. This is the final stage of the plot plan. So based on that, all the site activity starts, like actual foundation work is done at site, underground work starts based on this document. So our unit plot plan goes through all these stages. These are general stages. Every plot plan has to go through these stages. So let us start with the input information which is required from all other disciplines. Okay, if you see, proceeding to preliminary arrangement plan, information is collected from various groups, not only other discipline but from various groups. Like client also, we need some information. We will discuss one by one. Let's start with process. From process, we require this information before starting our unit plan. Some information we gather during the course of development. So let's start. Uh, we require size, volume requirement, and type of equipment. Okay, NPSH, net positive section height requirement for pumps, vessels, and drum elevation and slope requirements. Based on this, we try to allocate some. We try to locate our pumps, vessels, and drums. Okay, not only east-west but elevation also. Gravity flow requirement for open and closed system. Okay, this is the basic information which we are looking from process side. Uh, like from we collect all the draining system drains from all the vessels and it goes to some common points. So all those information from where to where we are to reach, those information we are looking from process. Type of building structure, open, enclosed, etc. Cladding to compressor house for weather protection. This information is given by process to layout team. Based on this only they start of developing their layout. Surface protection requirement, acid resistance flow requirements at chemical injection packages. This information is also received from process. Process flow sequence is the major thing which we are looking from process through PNADs or PFDs. Okay, without this we cannot proceed further. We cannot locate our equipment. We cannot locate our unit within overall plot plan. So this is the basic information which we are looking from process side. So from piping only, uh, unit plot plan is a piping deliverable, but still piping also looking for some information. Operational and maintenance access requirement for piping system. Okay, typical piping arrangement, space equipment for control station, inlet manifolds. So piping itself is looking for this information, which is given in some specification or some code standards, like spacing arrangement. We need to refer all these document specifications. Then we require PMS, that is also piping deliverable, but we are looking for this information. Overall plot plan. Once we have overall plot plan, then only we can imagine where all these units are located. Okay. Then project wise layout design basis. We have so many design bases with us, but project specific design bases we have to prepare for all projects. So these are the basic documents which are required for development of unit plot plan. Okay. We require some information from civil also. Factory Act requirements. These are all the things we are looking from civil side. Then economical consideration with regard to type of structure, whether we are going for concrete structure or steel structure. This information comes from civil side. Column spacing, column and beam spacing, we are looking from civil side. Then size and slope of floor drains, grading and grade elevations are this information we are looking from civil. Underground facilities like stormwater trench, slope requirements, manhole, sump, pits, elevation and dimension. All this information is freezed by civil department and they share it with piping team. Then only they put this information into their plot plan. Okay, from mechanical size side, we are looking for sizes of equipment, auxiliary, package item, rotary machines. At the beginning of the project, we are looking from mechanical, what kind of equipment they are giving us, what are the sizes, what are auxiliary items we are having, what are the packaged item, what are the rotary and static equipments. This information comes from mechanical only. Then for monorail, EOT, port requirement for maintenance, approach, operation, operating space requirements, everything for these things we are looking for from mechanical only, because these things are vendor related things, and with vendor mechanical items, mechanical team coordinate with them and they provide the final information to piping. Then from electrical, space requirement for electrical cable tray and trenches. Main deliverable from electrical is cable route. So for that we require how much space they are looking for. So that information we take from electrical and accordingly we allocate that space into our unit plot plan. Power receiving station space requirement for local control panel, push button, etc. So all these are electrical related items. Piping team most of the time they don't know in detail what kind of space is required. So everything comes from electrical side. Once this information is received, that is allocated in plot plan. Similarly, from instrumentation, space requirement for instrument cable. That information comes from instrumentation team. Then space and location requirement for analyzer, cabinet, rooms. It means all instrument related items, whatever space is required, that comes from instrumentation team. So all these disciplines they provide this information to piping while we are updating our plot plan, whichever stage it is, whether it is preliminary stage or final stage. Every time whenever the information gets mature, they pass this information to piping and they put it into their plot plan. So once this information is freezed, then final plot plan is freezed. So similarly, HSC also type of hazards and safety distances requirements. This information comes from HSC. Emergency escape routes, whatever space is required for this, that comes from HSC, and we put it into the plot plan. Erection and construction. This is a very important thing. Whatever we are doing, why we are having a plot plan, we are doing a 3D model. That is done for construction team only. So constructability study is performed, how the cranes will be located, crane movement, everything is studied. And this information is this discussion is done with construction and action team. So all the markups is done on a plot plan, unit plot plan. Accordingly, if additional roads are required, if we need to increase the space somewhere, that is done based on this study. Erection, opening in floor, opening in walls, door sizes, extra space for dairy, cranes, etc. So whatever space is required for construction point of view, operation point of view, erection point of view, that is done at this stage. So this information comes from construction team and that is put into the plot plan. And finally, client requirements are there. Preference of type of structure. Sometimes our civil team decides, okay, we'll go for concrete type pipeline, but client says no, we require steel. So we go with client requirement. Maintenance facilities like cranes, monorails, operation amenities like office, toilet block, change room, lunch room, aesthetic preferences. Everything is every this all this information comes from client. Whatever they require, we have to put it into the plot plan. Details are received from all above groups and the client, and copies of unit plot plan including all reasons are distributed to all of them. Whenever we update any information, it goes to all these stakeholders, all the disciplines. So whatever their comments are, that has to be incorporated and approved again. Once all the comments are approved, the document freezes. It is advisable that all proposals be discussed during conceptual stage itself with all the groups so as to avoid major revisions at later stage. So whatever major changes are there, that has to be done at the initial stage. If we take all these changes at later stage, then everything has to be changed. For example, if the equipment location is changed for maintenance purpose or erection purpose at later stage, then related piping, access ways, everything has to be revised. So again, all the approval stages we have to go. So it is better if we complete these things at the conceptual stage only. So this use of plot plan means this is input to other discipline, means whatever other activities we are doing, how it is useful there. So for piping, if you see in piping discipline itself, this unit plot plan is helpful in generating piping arrangement plan. Although this piping arrangement plans are done at later stage of the project, but this document is very useful for this thing. Pipe crack slipper study. This is very important activity to finalize the piping study, slipper study or pipe crack study. This document is very helpful. Nozzle orientation study. Once plot plan gets matured, we have to finalize our nozzle orientation. So many things are available in unit plot plan once we start our nozzle orientation. So it is very helpful at that stage also. Time schedule and sketches. Unit plot plan helps. We can easily see where lines are going and how many lines are coming. So we can prepare time schedule also based on this document. So piping is using its own deliverable here. Then for process this department is looking for unit plot plan to finalize their hydraulic calculations for pumping requirements. Okay, they have to freeze the pipeline size, control valve size, PSV size. So they are looking for equipment location. So at initial stage, when we are not therefore with our final plot plan, we whatever we have with us, based on that also they start their hydraulic calculations. So this document is very helpful right from starting stages of this document. Then utility distribution pin ID. These are the pin IDs developed based on the current location of the equipments. So we can decide how many utilities are going and how many are coming. We can prepare the network based on this document. Then again for mechanical vendor packages, general arrangement plans, we can always analyze based on unit plot plan. This unit plot plan is very helpful when where we have located all the equipments. Orientation of nozzles, we can review based on this document also. So for civil equipment foundations and footing drawings. For civil, this is a must document. Unit plot plan helps to locate foundations and their footing drawings. Structure building, pipe rack, platform, ladders, etc. All these things can be freezed based on unit plot plan location. Floor requirement, paving, when all the equipments are located in a plot plan, then they can plan their paving requirements, grading requirements, floor requirements. So this document is very useful for civil. If you see electrical, their main deliverable is cable tray. Once this unit plot plan is available with them, they can see how many equipments are there, where are the electrical requirements, where motors are located, where they have to route the cables. So this document is very helpful. They can locate all their electrical items, the junction box, street lighting. Without this document, they cannot proceed. So this document, unit plot plan, is very important for electrical team. Similarly, for instrumentation also, they have to finalize their cable tray route. Once they are aware of equipment location, how they are connected, how they are spaced, based on that they can plan their cable tray route. control valve and air volume locations. Okay, everything is done once this unit port plan is available. Analyzer, control room location, all these things can be planned. Similarly for HSC, firefighting arrangement plan, they can always plan with the help of unit port plan. Form package system, generator arrangement plans, all these can be freezed once we have all the equipment located in a single document, single place. Hazardous area classification. This is done only after plot plan development. Passive fire protection. All these studies without unit plot plan are not possible. So if you see without unit plot plan, we cannot do these things. So this document is very important to carry out our design activities. So few points I have listed down, which we can use as a checkpoint while developing a plot plan. For example, there should be a node section. Each unit plot plan to have a key plan of overall GA. We have developed our overall plot plan earlier. That will be used as a key plan, and whatever unit we are working on, that will be highlighted there in key plan only. All the equipment items should be located by coordinates of center line. Okay, the main agenda of developing a unit plot plan is to show all the equipment. While locating the equipment, we have to show the coordinates also of center line only. Dimensions from pipe rack, we can show the center line coordinates or we can show the dimension from pipe rack column. Condition of equipment should be given by locating one big size nozzle, usually manual in plan and elevation. Only elevation should be given, no vertical dimensions will be added. Okay, so this kind of coordinates we show for each and every equipment. We take center line coordinates of equipment or we take center line coordinate of nearby pipe rack column and we show all the dimensions from that point only. All the elevation should be with respect to 0 meters. It is preferable to show also the surrounding roads wherever possible. Now we have overall plot plan with us where all the roads and every layout is shown. Once we are working on one of the units to develop unit plot plan, we can take surrounding roads and show some part of those roads along with our unit plot plan, along with the coordinates. Each floor elevation shall be shown separately. Intermediate platform shall be shown in the plot plan. Sufficient section view. If we are having a structural details there in our plot plan, we cannot show only plan view. We have to show front sections also. So it is better to cover area between two column grids, one sectional view in order to maintain clarity. Requirement of minimum clear height, bottom elevation of the monorails, elevation of top brackets, steel for traveling cranes should clearly be marked in section views. So whatever section views we are showing, we have to show all these details for that. Included table showing items, equipment number, equipment designation and elevation. This has to be part of plot plan along with the equipment locations. Show major trenches, sumps and pits. If we have trenches or sumps, we have underground vessel, we have to show the pit location in plot plan and if possible we can show the sectional view of these pits also. So all these points we have to take care while finalizing our plot plan. Here we have captured what is pump. The definition of pump, it is a device that moves liquid slurry by mechanical action. You see, we have a very big unit where we are transferring a fluid from one point to another. So it can move from one point to another through gravity or we require a mechanical means. So pump is a device which can transfer from one place to another by increasing the pressure. So pump is a rotary equipment and are looked after by rotating group from mechanical discipline. Okay, so this is the definition. So we have different types of pump which are commonly used in our industry. If you see here, there are centrifugal pumps, rotary pumps, and reciprocating pumps. Here we have a picture of centrifugal pumps. If you see top suction, top discharge, side suction, side discharge, single stage, multi-stage, then gear type pumps, screw pumps, and reciprocating pumps. If you see the definition, how centrifugal pumps are working, The centrifugal pump transforms mechanical energy from rotating impellers into kinetic and potential energy required by the system. So this is a basic definition. Then rotary pumps use various mechanical means such as gear, cam and screw to move the fluid. Okay, so the main purpose is to transfer the fluid from one point to another. These are different types. In reciprocating, what we are doing, the liquid is moved by means of piston in the cylinder after being drawn into the cylinder through an inlet valve. As the piston moves down the cylinder, as the piston moves back up the cylinder, the liquid is discharged at a preset pressure controlled by delivery valve. Okay, so we need to understand how fluid is transferring from one point to another. This is just a mean of transferring the fluid. Okay, this is a mechanical item. What is the pressure, how this will be transferred, what is the pressure required at outlet nozzle, what is the pressure required at inlet nozzle, how pump is working, how it is designed, everything is taken care by mechanical discipline. Okay, layout team has to coordinate with mechanical to get the dimensions, and their main purpose is to do the piping, inlet and outlet piping based on the mechanical design given by the mechanical team. Okay, so this is a different type, this is the definition and different types of pump which we are using in our industry. So let us understand what is NPSH. NPSH is net positive suction head. This is the full form. Net positive suction head, which can further be broadly classified as NPSHA, NPSHR. Okay, to understand NPSH, we need to understand what is NPSHA and what is R. Okay, broadly, if you see, A is available NPSH and R is required. Okay, so if you see in short, suction pressure available should be larger than required one. Okay, if you see the definition, is the absolute pressure at suction head of the pump. Okay, available is actual available suction head, and required is it is the minimum pressure required at suction port of the pump to keep the pump from cavitation. So one is required, minimum required, then available. So if available is more than required, then the system will be working smoothly. Okay. So NPSH calculations are normally done by process team and they decide the equipment elevation if they are critical. So NPSH is the only criteria which is used by process team to decide the equipment elevations. Sometimes now fluid is traveling from one point to another and there may change in pressure. If the pipe length is more, there may be change in pressure. So some NPSH problem may be there. If these kind of problems are there in the system, then what are the possible solutions which can be implemented to improve the NPSH? Okay, our main purpose will be to have more available than the required one. Okay, so how we can do that? If there is a problem in NPSH in the system, then it can be done by use of external pressure to feed the pump. We can add additional pump or something by which we can increase the pressure with the use of external pressure, which is not possible in most of the cases. So you may increase the second one is you may increase the low level constitution for NPSH calculation, but that increases the dead level inside. Okay, this is a good solution, but this can be this must be discussed with vendor and process internally to finalize or to implement this kind of solution. Okay, you may elevate the tank or lower the pump elevation. That may not be feasible sometime. This is implemented at some places where we have to increase the equipment, but in that case, other cost is involved. Whichever costs are involved, that may increase. For example, if we are raising the vessel, the foundation cost, concrete cost, and connecting piping length cost, everything increases. So this is not a feasible solution, but if you don't have any option, then we have to do that. Lower the pump elevation. This can be looked into, but we cannot go underground. So these are the options, but we have to implement if we have no other option. You may cut on friction losses on suction pipe by doing the following. Now, if you look at this point, this is a general point which even if we don't have this kind of problem with us, still we can look into these points to get the better layout. Okay, increasing the suction pipe size or by decreasing the length of suction pipe. Layout team must look into this, decrease the length of suction pipe. Even we don't have any kind of problem, still we have to go for decreasing the length of suction pipe. It should be minimum. So reducing obstruction by reducing elbows. Again, to get the economical design, we have to reduce the number of elbows in the system, but always we have to discuss this thing with stress team so that they get the good stress analysis report. For thicker fluid, heat trace the lines to decrease the viscous losses. Okay, this can be one of the options. Hoses or corroded pipes have higher losses. Consider replacing them with new. Okay, so in the end we are trying to reduce the friction losses here. Okay, control temperature to ensure vapor pressure does not get high. Okay, we don't want to increase the vapor pressure without any reason, so we can control the temperature to ensure this is not increased. Often equipments piping handling high vapor pressures are painted with lighter color to avoid sun heating them. Okay, we don't want to increase the temperature or pressure because of sunlight, so we do these kind of things and we can avoid the raising of vapor pressure. You may also consider reducing the pump rotating speed. Okay, we can reduce the pump rotating speed. This may help fluid fill the tooth cavities more and allow a pump to operate without cavitating. Okay, this is a very good solution to avoid cavitation, but somehow we are reducing the efficiency of the pump. But in case we have to go for this, we this can be a good solution. Okay. So this is all about NPSH and what are the solution to solve the NPSH problem in the system. So we have all these options with us, but we have to get the optimized one after discussion with pump vendor or process team and project team. So we can come up with best solution out of these. So let's discuss cavitation. What is cavitation? Why it occurs and how it can be avoided. Cavitation is caused by formation of vapor bubbles in high velocity, low pressure region. This is the basic thing to understand. A pump is pumping fluid from one place to another. There will be high velocity. If we are pumping it to very far away place, okay, so there will be a long length of pipes in between. So a low pressure region may be there in between somewhere. By the subsequent collapse, when the bubble moves to higher pressure region, then cavitation occurs. Okay, when we will be having high velocity. Okay, if there are low pressure region in between from start to end point, then bubble forms, and when those bubbles enter from low pressure region to high pressure region, then cavitation occurs. They collapse and cavitation occurs. Cavitation can cause excessive erosion and vibration. Once the cavitation is there inside the system, it can cause erosion of the pipe and vibration of the system. With moderate cavitation, if a small amount of cavitation is there in centrifugal pump, the pump will sound as though it is pumping gravel or a slurry of sand and gravel. It will create unnecessary sound in the system. With moderate cavitation, if the level of cavitation is severe, then it will cause the discharge pressure to fall and become erratic, highly erratic, and produce both flow and pressure pulsation. Okay, if the level of cavitation is very high, then it can cause all these problems. Now, let us discuss why this cavitation occurs. Some cavitation can result from insufficient available NPSH. In last slide, we have discussed what is NPSH, available and required one. So, if insufficient NPSH is there, then it will cause pump cavitation. Cavitation occurs when required is larger than available. Whatever is required is more than the available one, then cavitation will occur. Cavitation reduces the performance of pump, causes vibration or noise, and corrodes the material. Therefore, minimize pressure loss on pump piping and care shall be taken to avoid drifting of the nozzle. Okay, that's why we discussed the suction line should be minimum in length. High pump suction velocities and long piping increase pressure fluctuation in the system. As we have discussed in the starting, high velocity and low pressure regions will be there because of long pipe, okay, in between source to destination point. So whenever there is this kind of situation, pressure fluctuation in the pumps, then it will cause cavitation. Vacuum system seems more prone to unpredictable cavitation than pressure system. Okay, cavitation is more found in the vacuum systems. So this is all about cavitation. This occurs, why it occurs, and how we can avoid it. So basically, we can avoid it by minimizing the suction length. That's why we go for straight length in pump suction lines, which we will discuss in coming slides. So if you see, this is a typical suction line. Okay? This is the line connecting with the pump nozzle with the eccentric reducer, which is located here. We are having one T-type strainer here and one block valve along with some draining arrangement. Okay, so this is a typical piping arrangement for suction line. So suction line is usually one or two sizes larger than the pump nozzle, so that the suction should be flooded. As we have discussed in previous video, we have discussed we have to avoid cavitation here. So we want this to be flooded always. So there will be no chance of cavitation. So suction line shall typically consist of the following. One block valve will be there to make the pump inline or offline or standby. The purpose of this block valve is to make the pump inline, offline or standby. Okay, the strainer T-type, Y-type or conical strainer to filter out the foreign materials such as sand, scales, etc. Strainers can be permanent or temporary one. Okay, we are talking about this strainer. This can filter out all the sand, scales and all this stuff. So it can be permanent or it can be temporary one. Eccentric reducer. So this is centric reducer. The centric reducer with flat side up. Now this is a typical thing which we need to remember. The the reducer should be flat side up. Why it should be flat side up? To avoid the vapor pocket. We don't want to have any kind of vapor pocket here. So it should be smooth and it should be flat at top. Flat side down reducer on pump section line can cause bubble or vapor formation at top. If you see here, this is a concentric reducer. There is a formation of bubble at this point. This is eccentric reducer with flat face down. There is a bubble formation here. When it is a flat face up, there is no blood formation of bubble and the flow is smooth. Okay, the same may get into the bubble causing impeller. Once this bubble formation is there, then it will enter into the pump and it will cause impeller impingement. Concentric reducers are not used to avoid cavitation problem. We are not using the concentric reducers at pump nozzle. So flat side down, this one we can use only for slurry lines. Otherwise, we are going ahead with this configuration. Okay, we have already discussed the concept of cavitation, so I'm not going into detail for that. So we are avoiding cavitation and avoiding vapor formation at this point. So that is why we are using eccentric reducer at pump nozzle. Okay, we want this line to be flooded, so that's why we are having one size larger as compared to pump suction nozzle. Okay, so this is a typical configuration of pump suction line. So we have a list of strainer here, different type of strainer which can be used in pump suction line. If you see the first one, the conical strainer are larger than the basket type. Okay, this is the basket type strainer, which these are the larger than that only. Often difficult in fitting makeup piping. These are used on suction line 2-inch and larger. Okay, for basket and conical type removal spool piece must be provided downstream of suction block valve, which must not interfere with the pipe spool. Whenever we are using this type of strainer, we have to add additional pair of flanges so that this spool can be removed. This is a flat strainer are usually specified for very short suction lines where no debris are expected. Okay. This is bathtub or T-type strainer is more expensive. It does not require bolting and removing spool piece to remove the strainer. Okay, so these are different types of. This is typical Y-type strainer which is generally used. These two are generally used in most of the piping systems. So based on its property, we can select the type of producer. Sorry, we can select the type of strainer in piping section piping system. Then there are block valves. Suction line should have a positive shutoff. Normally we use gate valves. Pump valves are operating valves. We have to operate it frequently, so these need to be kept as low as possible. Okay, we need to keep very minimum space below this, and it should be near to the paving only. So provide if we are no if it is not possible to keep its handle at operating level, we need to provide operating chain type arrangement so that the valve can be operated easily. Okay, so this was all about strainer and block valve which are used in section 9. This is the typical arrangement drawing. If you see, this is the pump nozzle, the central reducer, drain. Then we have a Y type or T type strainer. Then we have isolation valve. Same is this is pump A, this is pump B. So typically these are connecting, and the common suction header is coming from this point. Okay. In this case, what is the difference? We are using T type strainer. So the benefit is we are avoiding this one elbow. But overall, this is a costly affair. But it depends on the process requirements whether we should go for this one or this one. In most of the cases, we go for this type of strainer. Same fittings are arranged in vertical configuration. Most of the cases, this kind of configuration is used for vertical pumps, or we can go for smaller size. Okay. Otherwise, the maintenance of these things will be difficult, and if the size is more, this division of this valve will be high. We cannot operate it. So generally, we go for horizontal configuration. But for very small sizes, we can go for this kind of arrangement also. Similarly, we can go for T-type arrangement. We can avoid this elbow and add this T-type strainer here. There are few things which we need to take care. We don't want any kind of air pocket in section line. This line cannot go up and then go down. This is very uh, bad configuration, you can say. We need to have straight configuration. There should not be any air pocket. Okay, this we should avoid. Similarly, at this point, if you see here, the valve line is going up, then going down. So there will be air pocket. Air pocket should not be there. Okay, this is okay. This flat face up, this is okay. This is correct. Here it is concentric reducer, which is again forming the air pocket. So this configuration should not be used. These two configurations should not be used. This one should not be used. This is correct, and this one is correct. So these things we need to take care while routing the pump section line. So if you see pump section piping to be without any positive or negative pocket formation in the pipe routing. So these are different configuration we can choose. If you see, if these suction nozzles are at same level, we can go for this kind of arrangement. The line is coming and distributing with to the two pumps. If the suction level nozzle is higher, then we can go for this kind of arrangement also. Okay, it depends on the layout, location of equipment and pumps. Then if the temperature is more, then we can discuss this scenario with the stress team. They can recommend this type of situation. Okay, this kind of we can go for. And if more elbows, more flexibility is required, then we can choose this one or this type of arrangement where we are adding more elbows. That means more flexibility is required by stress team due to high temperature. So whenever temperature is more, we can go for such arrangement. Otherwise, our goal is to minimize the number of elbows, and the pipe length should be minimum. But if stress recommends due to high temperature, we can add few elbows. So if you see, this is a typical discharge pump piping. Here we are having pump nozzle, discharge nozzle, hydrotest vent. Then we are having a removal spool. We have added one pair of wrench here to remove this spool, because of whenever we want to take this pump out for maintenance, we have to remove this spool, and this can be removed. So another, we are having one pressure gauge at this point, then check valve, return valve, then we are having a block valve. Downstream of this check valve we are having one valve and draining arrangement in between. So if you see, this hydrotest vent can be avoided if the elevation of this line is less, and we can see this pressure gauge by standing here only. Okay, then this pressure gauge can be replaced. This hydrotest vent can be replaced by this pressure gauge. And this is the typical configuration. Generally, the discharge line size is one or two size more than the pump nozzle. If you see, in suction line also, the suction nozzle was less as compared to the line size. In discharge line also, the nozzle size is less as compared to the pipe size. So that way we are getting an economical pump design also. Okay, that is ultimate aim, to get the economical design. So one of the factors is that also. So what we are having here, hydrotest vent, depending on the layout pipe routing, we can locate it here or we can replace it by pressure gauge. Pressure gauge, they are required for performance monitoring of the pump. Also to verify depressurization of the pump for maintenance. Okay, so this pressure gauge is fulfilling two purposes. One is monitoring the pump performance, and it can be used as a depressurization of the pump. Then we are having a check valve here, ensures not backflow of the content. Now the pump is increasing pressure and fluid is running in this direction. This check valve helps this fluid doesn't come back. If it comes back, then it can damage the impeller inside the pump. So this check valve is very important in discharge line. This has to have there. Then we have a block valve. Here we have a block valve to make the pump inline, offline or standby. Okay, so these are the basic items which are always there in discharge piping. So if you see, this is a typical discharge piping. If the line size is less, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, that means under 2 inch, this kind of configuration can be used. The check valve we can add here, then gate valve in vertical. Because the size is less, this can still be operatable. If the size is 2 inch and 6 inch, up to between 2 and 6 inch, the configuration can be like this. Okay, so we are combining this check valve and gate valve, check valve and gate valve, check valve and gate valve. We are saving one pair of flanges. Okay, this can be a good configuration. The pressure gauge configuration, pressure gauge instrument, pressure gauge. So this kind of arrangement we can go for to 6 inch. Okay, if the elevation permits, then we can have this check valve, block valves here. We need to take care the elevation of handle. It should be operable from grid. Okay. If this line size is more than 8 inch and larger, then we go for this kind of arrangement. This line goes down. We place the check valve, the draining arrangement. Then this gate valve isolation valve can be in vertical, or we can sometimes we go for horizontal configuration also. So these are the typical configuration for discharge piping, pump discharge lines. Based on sizes, we can go for each one. Okay, and of course we have to share this information with stress for finalizing the routing. So let us discuss the layout aspect of pump piping. I have tried to capture few points. They are very much important while doing the pump piping layout. Okay, pump should be located near to the source to reduce the suction length. This is the ultimate goal to optimize the thing. So it should be any pump will be connected to any vessel, column, or any horizontal vessel. So we need to ensure that the connecting lines should be minimum in length. So it should be connected to located near to the source. Flammable service pump shall be located out of pipe rack. As we have already discussed during overall proton and unit proton development, the pump location, if they are handling the flammable service, the temperature of the service to is more than 230 degrees Celsius, then these pumps should not be located below pipe rack. If pumps are handling non-flammable service, then these pumps can be located beneath the pipe rack. Pumps to be adequately spaced, 900 clear space for personal movement. After completing pump suction and discharge piping, we need to have clear spacing of 900 mm so that a person can move around for doing the operation and maintenance activity. If we are locating the pumps beneath pipe rack, then we need to ensure there is a proper access way for maintenance vehicle under pipe rack. So we need to keep spacing for that vehicle movement. Okay, any forklift access or any automobile crane access should be provided, especially in the case of when we are providing the pumps below pipe rack. The motors of the pump, these motor are the component, one of the components of the pump which require maintenance. So we need to provide unhindered access for forklift to remove the motors. Pump inside the shelter. Sometimes vendor or client recommend these pumps to be located inside the shelter. Then we have to provide monorail for maintenance purposes. If the pump sizes are bigger, then we have to go for EOT type cranes. This arrangement we will discuss in detail when we discuss the shelter arrangement for compressors. Center line of the elevation pump to be calculated considering the strainer maintenance requirement. In most of the cases, there will be a draining connection at strainer end. So after completing those piping arrangement, then only we can check the confirm the final center line of the elevation, center line elevation of the pump. Before fixing the pump location, ensure connecting piping is all clear from stress point of view. Suction and discharge are critical piping that is connecting to pump. We need to share pipe routing with stress team so that they can perform their stress analysis and confirm whether the routing is okay or they require additional flexibility. As far as possible, avoid locating pump inside the pit. Pump should not be located inside the pit. If because of any reason we have to locate this inside the pit, then we need to discuss these things with client as well as with HSC team. So if they give some recommendation, then we have to fulfill those recommendations before putting the pumps inside the pit. Discharge piping shall have a removable spool piece, as we have discussed this thing during discharge piping discussion. We added there a pair of flange so that the spool can be removed whenever we want to perform the maintenance activities. Pressure gauge on discharge piping to be accessible and clearly visible. Okay, that is why we were having two tappings, one for hydro test vent and one for pressure gauge. If we can locate it at highest point, then hydro test vent can be avoided. We can replace it with pressure gauge. Well should be oriented such that they clear the access way. Suppose we are having a gate valve, it is having a long handle, then it should not obstruct the access ways. The minimum straight length of the suction piping should be 1 meter or 1.5 meters straight. Okay. Generally, we start with 3D to 5D straight length, but these recommendation comes from vendor side. There shall be no flow disturbing fittings. When we are talking about the straight length, okay, we ensure there should not be flow disturbing fitting inside the straight length. For example, partial open valves, T's, short radius elbows, these we need to avoid in straight length. Okay, but at the same time, fully open, non-flow disturbing valves, long radius elbows, and reducers are not considered as flow disturbing elements. So we can always add these elements in 5D or 3D straight run part. Okay, so these were a few of the points which you need to take while doing the pump layout and piping. Here we have few points which we need to take care while locating the pump. We need to have minimum this much spacing between the pumps. If you see, if the suction line size is up to 2 inch, we can have this much spacing between two pumps. And as the size of the pipe increases, then we need to increase the spacing between the pumps. And if we talk about height of the pump foundation, height of the pump foundation shall be 100 to 300 mm from grade level or floor level if it is on paving or inside the building. As we have discussed in previous slides, sometimes vendor or client recommends to place all these pumps inside the shelter. Then we can go for base. We are talking about the base elevation. Okay, base plate elevation of the pump, that should be 100 to 300 mm. But if these are located outside the shelter where the flood is expected, then minimum elevation should be 300 to 500. Okay, so based on these criteria, we can finalize the spacing and height of the pump foundation. So here we have listed out few of the recommendations or stress considerations for pump piping. Okay, if you see, pump piping should be as short as possible, which we have discussed in previous slides also. It should have enough flexibility to absorb any pipe movement. So whenever we do the pump suction or discharge piping, we share the routing with stress team. They perform the stress analysis and they come out with the required flexibility. Okay, then it should be adequately supported so that the nozzle loads are within the allowable limits given by the vendor. So this activity is performed by stress team most of the time, but layout team has to consider basic rules so that the enough flexibility is provided upfront to the stress team. So first, support on suction line, the adjustable type. This is a typical thing which we do for all pump piping supporting. Okay, for suction line especially, we provide a adjustable support. First support should be adjustable with pump suction nozzle. This is why we provide this adjustable support, so that misalignment should be avoided. If there is a misalignment with respect to nozzle, then this could lead to failure of pipe, pump, or both. Okay, to avoid this, we go for adjustable type support for pump suction line. This support to be as close as possible to the pump. As it is close to the pump, more will be the beneficial. Support shall be installed so that pipe and valve may not load on the pump nozzle. So this is the main objective to providing this adjustable support. We want to save the nozzle, and we at the same time we want to pass the stress. We want to pass the critical line in stress analysis. So stress supporting engineer to verify about pump settlement. Okay, this is another criteria. If there is no pump settlement, then the first support can be from grade only. If settlement problem exists, the first support should be taken from pump foundation. If you see here, we have clubbed first support with the foundation of the pump when there is a settlement problem. Okay, if there is no settlement problem, then it should be separate support like this. This is adjustable support, very much near to the nozzle. So these are the basic consideration related to stress analysis for pump suction line especially. So if you see, we have a picture here where we are trying to look at the pump arrangement inside the shelter. Okay, this is a typical arrangement. Generally, most of the things will remain same. If you see, this is the pump located inside the shelter. Okay, and we have to take care the clear access, okay, clear access space for maintenance. That should be at backside of the pump where motor maintenance is planned. Okay, there should be a ramp by civil for the trolley movement inside the shelter. Okay, this kind of ramp should be there, and elevation is as we have discussed earlier, it should be between 100 to 300. So suppose we are taking 200 in this case, and if you look at top, suppose we have to remove this spool piece, or we are taking the motor up, or we plan to do maintenance of any of the component, we need to calculate all these dimensions. This is the highest point. Okay, then we are taking a margin of A clearance, if you see. Then B is the dimension of the object to be lifted. This is the height of the item which we are taking out for maintenance. Then C is the sling. Sling is this one. The rope will be like this. Okay, to hold the item. Then chain pulley block. This is the length of chain pulley block which will be given by vendor. Okay, so piping layout engineer activity will be to decide the elevation up to this point, hook height. Okay, this will be considered C to B, C, B and A has to be decided by piping layout engineer, and above that elevation shall be decided by vendor, which is providing this hook, and later on these design shall be finalized by civil team. Okay, in this case we are providing monorail here with the hook arrangement. Okay, so this is the piping coming outside the shelter and running on sleepers or some kind of structure. And at this end, we are having electrical and instrument cable tray spacing. Okay, so we have allocated this much space for electrical and instrumentation. So this is kind of typical arrangement which we plan for pumps which are located inside the shelter. Here, if you see, we have a few pictures of pump piping for top suction and top discharge. Okay, there are many ways of doing the routing. This is one of those routings. If you see, we have top suction and top discharge nozzles here. Okay, the discharge line is routed this way as the elevation is more, so we have planned a platform for this line. And if you see here, the suction line is below this platform where the strainer can be accessed from grade only. Okay, the routing is typical, more or less it is same as we have discussed earlier. Only thing is the nozzles are located at top, so we have planned routing something like this. Okay, this is the spacing between two pumps where a person can move inside. Headroom is there below this platform. Okay, so we have clear access for movement, clear access for maintenance, and clear approach for discharge line. So this kind of arrangement can be planned for top suction and top discharge piping. This is another view where we have planned piping for front suction, top discharge, front suction and top discharge. This is a typical routing. I mean, one of the typical routings you can say. There can be n number of ways to route this piping. Okay, here we have side suction, side discharge type arrangement. Okay, here front suction, front discharge. This is again side suction, side discharge. Okay, this is just to get you some visualization to understand how this routing can be done. Okay, if you see, the suction is coming from this side, suction is coming from this side, one is going to this pump, another is going to this pump, then discharge, discharge, both are clubbing here, then common header is going outside. Everywhere it is same, suction line will come and it will be divided into two parts, then discharge line, two headers will be combined and common header will go out. Okay, so this kind of arrangement shall be there for different type of pumps. We have few pictures here. Okay, this is discharge line. This is typical routing just to save this space. If you see, we have utilized this much space to route the discharge piping. Okay, suction line we have planned this way. Strainer access from this side, person can enter here. All these piping in this space is clearing the headroom. So person can move from here also. Okay, this is clear space. From this side also, this is clear space. So all these items can be operated from this side. All these items can be operated from this side. Okay, similarly, here we are using T-type strainer as we have discussed during discharge piping. Sorry, suction piping configuration. There we had discuss this configuration where we sometimes we go for T-type strainer. Okay, this is a typical case where there is special requirement from instrumentation. This instrument sometimes there is a note in process pin ID. This instrument we have to plan in vertical only, so that way we cannot go down again. So in that case, in such scenario, we have to plan this platform to operate this strainer and valve. Okay, this is rare case where some instrumentation requirement is there. Otherwise, this is a normal pump as we have done here. Only thing is the requirement from instrumentation, and we have changed the configuration of discharge piping. Sorry, the suction piping. Again, these are few of the examples for suction and discharge piping. Here also, we have planned this T-type strainer, and common header will be from this point. Discharge line is same. Typical routing. We are planning few items here, and common header will go outside. This is a normal routing. Suction line, discharge line. If you see, we have planned this line this way, that is in front of the pump. Here we have planned backside. So in this scene, in this scenario, the space utilization is not that much good as we have done here. Okay, more accessibility is there. That is possible when we are, but in this case, we have to have this much extra space because we are routing this discharge line between the pumps. So this space, if we have sufficient space, then we can go for this kind of scenario. If we don't have space between the pumps, then we have to clear this space and we can go this kind of scenario. Okay, this is just an example for vertical pumps. If you see the suction and discharge piping, we have two configurations. One is straight, it is going up and going out. It is going up and going out. Okay, this is also similar case, check valve, then isolation valve and going out. But the suction line, here we have strainer in vertical, valve in vertical. Okay, this is one scenario. Another scenario is like this. We have a strainer and valve in horizontal, then the line is going up. Okay, if you see, this is a similar arrangement. We are putting strainer and valve in horizontal, then this line is going up. Okay, these are the examples of some typical pump suction and discharge piping. So in this slide, we'll try to understand what are seal systems. Okay, if you see, it's a mechanical device where something is rotating and we are converting the energy into kinetic energy. There will be a shaft which will be continuously rotating and we have to seal all those shafts. Okay, this is a global scenario in food industry to petrochemical and nuclear plant. Everywhere this condition is there. We have to seal the rotating shafts. Okay, so if you see, mechanical seal is a device with varying parts. Unless it is serviced from time to time, it will ultimately fail. Okay, so this failure of mechanical seal will mean leakage of pumped fluid outside. Okay, so there may be different consequences. Sometimes leakage is accepted up to some level. Okay, we can allow the leakage until someone notices it, but sometimes it will mean a possible fire on leaking hydrocarbon pump. Okay, so we need to avoid all these leakages. To avoid all these leakages, there are few sealed systems. So let us try to understand what are sealed systems. To avoid these leakages, seals are very often used together with so-called seal systems to alert the personnel about a problem. Okay, we have rotating shafts, we have a seal for rotating shafts. There will be leakage. Okay, if we don't go for time to time maintenance, then it will ultimately fail. There will be leakage. Leakage may be accepted or may not be acceptable. So to detect all these leakages, we have seal systems, okay, which will alert the personnel and inform them that there is a leakage and we need to go for pump repair. Okay, so most commonly used seal plans in our industry are the ones with closed loop seal systems. Okay, in closed loop seal system, what happens? The fluid which is pumped, it goes back to the suction line. Okay, so in the event of seal failure, the barrier fluid pushes inside the pump, causing pressure drop in the seal system and raising an alarm. Okay, when the pumped fluid is sent back to the line, then there will be pressure drop. That pressure drop can be sensed through a seal system, and that will raise an alarm in the control room. If it's still unnoticeable, then it will trip the pump and down the system. Okay, so it is nothing but the checking procedure. Okay, if there is a leak, there will be leak because something is rotating and there is a seal around that. That seal will leak to check whether there is a leakage or not. That seal systems are there. Okay, so next slide we will try to cover one of the seal systems so that it is more clear to everybody.
Okay, so what we are having here with us, we are discussing seal plans for pumps and we are taking an example of plan 65. Okay, first let us understand what are the various components which are there in this plan. One control valve is there, pressure control valve is there, restricted orifice is there, then we are having one vessel, and here at bottom we are having a drain connection. So what is happening inside this? The reservoir will have an orifice in the outlet. Okay, small acceptable leakage will pass through the orifice and to the drain. Okay, if there is small leakage, it will go through this, it will pass the orifice and we can drain it. If it is not possible, I mean if the leakage rate is big enough, the orifice will create obstruction. Once the flow is more, the orifice will start obstructing the flow. And what will happen in that case? The flow, the level of this vessel will start increasing. Okay, it will go up and it will send an alarm to the control panel. So this kind of seal plans can be used to get the alarm in case of leakage. Okay.
So let us first understand what are the various inputs which are required to start the column layout. Okay, what are the various inputs? Now, first of all, we need some project specifications, then some general inputs. In project specification, we require plot plan and site plan, which are again piping deliverables. Then project specifications. For every project we have some project specific specifications, so all those specifications are required. Okay. Then process flow diagram, without which we cannot start this layout. Because first we need to understand how the flow is moving and how the associated vessels are connected. Okay, so that to understand that we require this PNID and PFDs. Other than project specification, we require project some general inputs. For example, work instructions, design guides, mechanical data sheets, engineering drawings, level sketches, and data bank. Data bank means if we have done this layout in past in other projects, we can refer those things to get the better output.